Why are a lot of families failing? Well, this is a question whose roots go quite far into our history. Because if you want to ruin society, well, you have to pick on the women. I've been saying this in previous videos, but one needs to uh, pick on women and make their life very hard. Because, see, when men are injured emotionally, well, in most situations, they will still have the dignity to function as they should because masculine energy is all about structure and is also about the idea of tribalism and also more or less defending the feminine. When you have wounded men, many of them will still take care of women even if they're screwed emotionally. But up till a certain point, because afterwards, if you get hurt emotionally, mentally, even physically, you've got a lot of traumas. Well, if you go beyond a certain threshold, there is a problem because, caring about others is no longer going to be a problem or an issue, or, well, better said, is not going to be a possibility at all. Feminine energy is not based on the idea of stability necessarily. Feminine energy is an amplifier. What you program women to, or well, feminine energy to function as, or well, better said, women, they will amplify it through their typically dominant feminine energy. Each of the genders is typically a bit more represented by their own energy, but it's not a rule of thumb. There are more masculine women and there are also more feminine men. I'm not talking about femboys and the such. That's a whole different thing regarding abandonment issues. Now, when it comes to these energies, masculine energy, when it becomes wounded, well, it's gonna be more protective. It's gonna be even more protective than usually is because abandonment issues will always trigger one of the two possibilities, either becoming overly forceful or domineering by submitting others to your own ideas, or it will become overprotective in a way and, well, it will try to teach people to stay defensive and not take risks. Yes? With feminine energy is not based on conquest, it is based on inclusion, including other people. And based on how you treat women, they will respond in kind. If you treat women with what many societies have done to their women by teaching them that they're worthless, they shouldn't be this, they shouldn't be that, they should be treated as inferior, well, feminine energy is very vibrant in a way. It is, as of what I've seen, functionality wise, well, it is based on always showing you its aspects. If she is wounded, a woman will always make a fuss out of that. She will complain, she will make your life hard. She's not gonna tell you what you need to hear. She's gonna invite you into her pains, hoping that you can actually solve it. Because feminine energy is the energy that should elevate the masculine, and the masculine energy's purpose is to bring awareness in a way, but to bring responsibility in feminine. Because feminine energy, you can imagine it like water. It doesn't have a shape like the stability of the masculine, right? Feminine is also represented by the moon, when you call someone a bit cuckoo, a bit unstable, you call them moony in a way, right? Now, not to think that the moon is about madness necessarily. The moon as an energy influences the feminine, and the feminine not being typically stable by its design, it can actually pull you in all sorts of directions if you yourself are not stable enough. Because feminine energy is about creation, and not only creation, but especially um, amplifying, right? You see a lot of women function by this. You tell them something, they'll make a big fuss out of it, right? Anything that they don't like, they'll make it even worse. Everything that they like, they're gonna make it even more because that is what feminine energy functions as, right? Now, there is also a difference in between complaining and spilling things out, as I call it, because complaining is a habit. Spilling things out can be misinterpreted as complaining because people simply, as I said, people want you to just give, not take, right? And there is an exception to this when it comes to their pains. Everyone wants you to take but not give, right? When miserable people exist around you, what do? They always complain, yes, but they don't want you to complain because, they're only there to simply dish their energy out so that they make space for more complaining and more overthinking, which, well, sooner or later they will come back into your life and, they will drown you in their sorrows again, right? These are what I call the bombers, right? Because just like the military aircraft, they come, they drop their payload, and then they just leave. No, they don't care much about what you have to say. Because just like in the military, the bomber's purpose is to drop their payload and simply run before someone can counteract them. Similarly, these people are the same, right? It's a bit of wounded masculine, wounded feminine. The point of masculine energy is to bring responsibility, because responsibility is the main aspect of masculine energy. It is an aspect of awareness, it is an aspect of stability, because stable people are stable because they're capable of taking responsibility. The moment when you don't, when you start no longer taking responsibility, you become feeble, you become weak. Your life becomes much, much harder. So, as things go, feminine energy functions as an amplifier. That is why a lot of people, especially when you look at women, they will amplify everything that was told to them. You tell them something bad, you program them that they're not worthy enough, well, everyone around them will sooner or later be welcomed into this. Because you have to understand, feminine energy is also about sensuality. And feminine energy doesn't conquer the way, by domineering, right? And it conquers by inviting others into its own pains, right? Masculine energy dominates others, right? It inflicts pain on others. It can even humiliate. It can do a lot of things just to show their own dominance, right? Asserting dominance is the way of the masculine energy. Feminine energy invites you into their pains. That's why it is always very hard to pull out of it, mainly because, well, issues will make you sensitive to that, but also because feminine energy also has a certain amount of grace to it. Even when it is wounded, it still has a certain amount of grace. And that's why people end up very fucked up when it comes to dealing with the wounded feminine, because that is the way through which the wounded feminine dominates, right? It invites you into their pains, it makes you all comfortable, and it teaches you that their discomfort is your comfort, right? And well, that's basically towards the epitome of it, or what humans in their psychology would call probably a femme fatale or something like that. So these things have been going on for hundreds of generations. When you get families where one parent is fucked up or wounded, let's say, psychologically, emotionally, when you have the woman as wounded, she will always give birth to children who are a bit more problematic, right? Because the woman is the one who carries the child. If the vibration of her body isn't high enough, she will invite lower forms of life who are more influenced by ignorance, right? And as this progresses through the generations, well, you get weaker and weaker people, right? When you have boys raised by women, you can't expect them to be true men, because the man has to learn, usually the hard way, the tribalism of life, right? You get very naive men when they are having way too much feminine energy. And you don't want naive men as your leaders, because naivety, in a way, is a cousin of suspicion, right? And suspicion is an aspect of idiocy, because only ignorant people, they are always going to be suspicious of others, because an idiot people doesn't want to learn anything new. They don't want to improve their life. So when you have women that, get to be wounded, they will amplify that. They will keep amplifying it, and the children they will have, they will also spill this negativity upon. They will also draw the man down. And men being protective, it's much harder as a man to move away from a toxic woman than vice versa, because you will also feel the attachment, the karmic attachment, but you'll also feel the necessity to to protect her, irrespective of how much pain she deals. That's the aspect of tribalism. Tribalism has to be elevated by the feminine energy, and it can be elevated through ignorance and, well, wounded feminine, because people have to learn their lessons, or through the conscious feminine energy, who, all the kings, all the people who were great leaders, typically they had their mothers, they had, some women around them who also had some wisdom, because, you can't be a leader without having some wise people around. If you don't have wise people around, you're always gonna have problems because you can't know everything. And wise people, well, they try to surround themselves with other wiser people. Stupid people will try to surround themselves with even more stupid people. And, stupid people are always represented by at least one wounded energy, right? When parents are both wounded, thing that's been going on for hundreds upon hundreds of years, the more this woundedness continues, the future generations will find it harder and harder to move away from it. The bigger problem is once you go beyond a certain threshold, it's gonna start becoming harder and harder to prevent the idea of giving up on life. See, you might be the greatest genius, as a lot of people have been in society, but being surrounded by idiotic people, they kind of gave up on their lives. They were fully uh, conscious of the fact that, their potential may exist. They might have a talent and they still kept giving their life to their talent, but unfortunately the misery around them and the fact that they were more sensitive, so therefore more open to the misery around them, constantly pulled them down. Well, sensitive people are always a good aspect, at least for me, because they are very, how to put them, they are very good symbols of a society, because their misery, the misery that they have drawn from others, their sensitivity, clearly can be used as an indicator of things affecting society, because you can't expect finding it out from miserable people unless you have a certain awareness and you're capable of actually looking at those people, seeing what cycles they go through. And even if you see what cycles they go through, if you don't have a certain sensitivity of life, it's going to be hard to observe it. Now, a lot of families obviously will suffer because most of those people still carry on the genetic suffering of their parents, right? All their karma is what they take with them, right, in the next lives. And, based on that karma, they will seek a compatible body. Since a lot of the generations have been propelling their hurts and wounds and, all these things, the next life they come in, those things will still influence them and they'll be again susceptible to them. They will be susceptible to getting birthed in another family that had the same values as the people they were traumatized by in previous lifetimes. And this goes on for multiple lives, can go even for hundreds of lives, according to some sources. I'm never here, I wasn't here to actually count those, it's up to each and every one. And it's a good thing that nature actually has this idea that when you are born in a new life, what was influencing you in previous lifetimes has a minor influence on you. The more ignorant you are made to be, though, those things from previous lifetimes will have a slightly more impact. But still, the current life will have the greater impact on you. So it is imperative for a sick society to keep you constantly ignorant and suffering, because this way you will perpetrate the negativity of, the society around you. When you end up with idiotic people policing you, society can rest assured that, they don't have to do anything more because the idiots will do the policing for them, right? And all these pains, the more you take them to the next generation, it's going to be easier and easier for people to simply give up on life. When you look around, the ignorants are suffering around you because they gave up on life. It's not that much worth trying to save them because they have an expectation to be saved, but it's only an expectation, right? They have an expectation to be helped and given attention, not to be saved. Because you have to learn how to save yourself. You can't be saved by someone else, because if you're saved by someone else, which is possible, you haven't learned your lessons. So you will still tend towards doing the same damaging things just so that, you learn your lessons, right? It is a karmic aspect that goes on and on if it is not attended, right? Karmic aspects are cyclical. They will come back sooner or later. Obsessions are the same thing, right? Obsessions are a mark of a lack, a tremendous lack. And I've said it before, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I've said it before. Most, if not all, the evils in this society stem from a lack of attention. because people are gonna be willing to do anything when it comes to attention, right? And the biggest problem is with emotional people, because these people, when they lack attention, they will start doing all sorts of self-destructive behaviors or even destructive behaviors. And sooner or later, they might actually feel an emotion, right? Whether they shoplift or they kill or they wound or they do whatever, they will unfortunately feel one emotion sooner or later. Once they feel an emotion after being or feeling dumbed down and disconnected from their emotions for so long, that's gonna become almost instantly an obsession, and they will keep repeating it, right? And you get that in wounded energies. Well, wounded feminine will make more of a fuss out of it, and wounded masculine will seek to dominate others or whatever destructive behavior in order to allow themselves to experience that once more. Because masculine energy is about building and destroying, right? It's about recycling every resource that you have, because you build a society by recycling resources, right? You pick resources from around and you build your society with, right? And when you destroy again, well, it's in a way a kind of recycling, because something no longer exists and in a way is transformed into something new. Hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. Unfortunately, it ended up way longer than I intended, but well, wisdom has to be shared. Enjoy life, take care, and this being said, Ferenjan Board signing out.